Okay, now today's topic is drug use in the peptic ulcer. Drug use in the peptic ulcer. Okay, drug use in the peptic ulcer. So before knowing about the what is the ulcer actually? Ulcer. We are familiar with this word ulcer, but there's a scientific definition of the ulcer. So ulcer is generally defined as discontinuation of the skin and the mucous membrane, or the in simple language, breach in the continuation of the skin and the mucous membrane. Discontinuation of the skin and the mucous membrane, or breach in the continuation of the skin and the mucous membrane, is called the ulcer. Okay, again, one term is the wound. You know about the wound. What is the wound? Wound is it is just the discontinuation of the skin. The difference between the ulcer and the wound is the discontinuation of the skin only, but in ulcer, there must be the discontinuation of the skin and the mucous membrane. So there's a basic difference between the ulcer and the wound. Okay. So ulcer. So what is the ulcer? Ulcer is the discontinuation of the skin and the mucous membrane. Now, what is the peptic ulcer now? Location of the peptic ulcer. So peptic means. So we know about. I think you are very much familiar about the physiology of the acid pepsin secretion. Is that topic is covered in physiology? Peptic means secretion of the acid and the pepsin. So we know that the secretion of the acid and the pepsin, they are secreted from the this parietal cells which are present in the gastric mucosa, The parietal cells are present. From the parietal cells, this is secretion of the acid and the pepsin. Okay, or if because of some reason, like we can say consumption of the ingestion of the fatty foods, smoking, alcohol, and this use of this non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for the longer duration. What will happen? There's the excessive secretion or the overproduction of the acid and pepsin from the gastric parietal cells. So because of the overproduction of the acid and pepsin from the gastric parietal cells, the mucosa of the stomach persistently exposed to the acid and the pepsin. So that leads to the formation of the ulcer. So that is called the peptic ulcer. So what happened in generally in peptic ulcer? Peptic ulcer, they are located in the stomach gastric mucosa. We can say the peptic ulcer, they are located in the gastric mucosa. Okay, and the pathophysiology in simple the cause of, or we can say the pathophysiology, simple pathophysiology, acid peptic, this gastric ulcer is the peptic ulcer is the we can say because of the overproduction of the acid and pepsin. So that leads to the formation of the expose of the acid and pepsin to the gastric mucosa. That leads to the formation of the discontinuation of the mucosa of the stomach. That forms the peptic ulcer. Okay, so what is the peptic ulcer? So what are the drugs which are used for the treatment of the peptic ulcer? Is called that is called the drug use for the peptic. So before we have to start the drug use in the peptic ulcer, we have to know about the acid peptic disorder. What is acid peptic disorder? Acid peptic disorder is a broad term. It is a broad term under which there are so many diseases. Acid peptic disorder is the broad term under which there are so many diseases. The diseases are, so what is the acid peptic disorder? Acid peptic disorder includes the hypersecretion of the gastric acid. In simple, that is a simple symptoms, that is called the hypersecretion of the gastric acid. Gastroesophageal reflux. That means in simple language, in simple term, we call it the heartburns. Gastroesophageal reflux. What will happen there generally? What happens there generally? This is the regurgitation of the gastric contents or the food particles from the stomach into the esophagus. That is called the gastroesophageal reflux. Stress-induced mucosal erosion. That means stress-induced mucosal erosion. That is the generally this stress-induced mucosal erosion. They are related with the severe burn and severe head injury. So what happened in severe burn? In severe burn, there is a loss of the fluid and the plasma from the blood capillaries. Loss of the fluid and the plasma from the blood capillaries. So what happened? Because of the loss of the fluid from the blood and the capillaries, so the blood supply to the gastric mucosa, the blood supply by the capillaries to the gastric mucosa is compromised or is severely reduced. Because of that, that causes the ischemia of the gastric mucosa, and that ischemia further becomes the necrosis. That is called the stress. That is called the formation of the ulcer because of the severe bond. So that type of the ulcer is also called the Codling ulcer. That type of the ulcer is also called the Codling ulcer. And the second is the uh, because of the head injury, because of the severe head injury. So what happens because of the severe head injury, or we can say the intracranial hemorrhage, severe head injury or the intracranial hemorrhage, this parasympathetic this cardiovagal center of the this autonomic nervous system is stimulated. So what happened in the cardiovagal center? There is a vagal center of the what happened there. Parasympathetic activity will be increased because of the excessive stimulation of the parasympathetic activity. Acetylcholine is in acetylcholine. There's a secretion of the neurotransmitter. We know that is the acetylcholine, and that acetylcholine will act on the this because of what happened when this acetylcholine will act. What happened in the parasympathetic activity? Yeah, this secretion from the glands will be increased. Secretion from the glands will be increased. So one of the action of the increased secretion of the this gastric increased secretion of the gastric acid from the this parietal cells of the gastric mucosa. So that causes the formation of the mucosal erosion of the gastric mucosa. So that is called the stress-induced ulcers. So one of the ulcers is the Codling ulcers. That is called because of the severe one, and the second is the Cushing's ulcer. That is because of the severe head injury. So we will discuss about that also in coming slides. So what is the Cushing ulcers and what is the Codling ulcers? So this is just for the introduction and the peptic ulcer and the peptic ulcer. So what's the introduction? Acid peptic disorder. What is the acid peptic disorder? They are the collection of the diseases or the symptoms. They are the collection of the diseases and the symptoms that includes the hypersecretion of the hypersecretion of the gastric acid, gastroesophageal reflux, stress-induced mucosal erosion, and the peptic. Okay, so peptic ulcer can be basically the exact cause, but the contributory factor for the peptic ulcer are the causes of the peptic ulcer are the generally significantly are the infection with the Helicobacter pylori and the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory NSAIDs induced peptic ulcer. The peptic ulcers are the Helicobacter pylori induced and the NSAIDs in the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug that causes the peptic ulcer. Is there any confusion? So what happened in the Helicobacter? Helicobacter pylori, they are the gram-negative bacteria. They are the gram-negative bacteria. And the NSAID-induced peptic ulcer. So this is just the introduction of the acid peptic disorder. This is just the introduction of the. Is there any confusion? This is just the introduction of the acid peptic disorder that includes the hypersecretion of the gastric acid, gastroesophageal reflux, stress-induced mucosal ulcer, erosion, and the peptic ulcer. And basically the causes of the peptic ulcers are the generally significantly they are the importantly they are the Helicobacter infection with the Helicobacter pylori and the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And the anatomically the peptic ulcer they are located in the gastric mucosa and the first part of the duodenum. So they are called the gastric ulcers and the duodenal ulcers. Gastric, the most common peptic ulcers are the duodenal ulcers. 80% of the peptic ulcers are the duodenal ulcers. They are present in the first part of the duodenum, and the second most common type of the peptic ulcers are the gastric ulcers, depending upon the anatomical side. Should I continue? So simple pathogenesis of the peptic ulcer. I think this is the physiology, or we can say pathology. This is the pathology. So what is the simple pathology of the? So we know about what is the peptic ulcer. Peptic ulcer, they are located in the gastric mucosa. Which is because of the expose of the gastric mucosa to the over secretion of the acid and the pepsin, which are secreted from the gastric parietal cells. So what are the aggravating factor? What are the aggravating factor for the stimulation of the overproduction of the acid and the pepsin? The aggravating factors are the acid. This we can say the excessive production of the acid and the pepsin, infection with the Helicobacter pylori, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, alcohol, and the smoking. These are the aggravating factor for the formation of the peptic ulcer. Hypersecretion of the acid and the pepsin, infection with the Helicobacter pylori infection with the Helicobacter pylori bacteria, NSAID is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, consumption of the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for the longer duration, alcohol, and the smoking. So what will happen because of this aggravating factors for the longer duration? So we know that there are certain normal mucosal defensive factors of the stomach are there. What are the normal mucosal defensive factors? They are the mucosa itself. Number one is the mucosa itself. Other, mucosal blood flow. Okay, formation of the prostaglandin E2 and the bicarbonate. These are the factors that protects the mucosa of the stomach, or we can say these are the factors that protects the gastric mucosa. So, but what will happen because of these aggravating factors? Because of those aggravating factors, is impairment of the normal mucosal defensive factors. Those factors are the mucosa. That means the mucosa is impaired, blood flow is reduced, and there's a reduce in the formation of the prostaglandin A2 and the bicarbonate. And further, what will happen because of those impairment of the normal mucosal defensive factor? There's a loss of the gastric and the duodenal mucosa integrity, forming the peptic ulcer. This is the simple pathogenesis of the peptic ulcer. So I will repeat it again. Stimulation, aggravating factor, stimulation, or stimulating factors, and the aggravating factors of the peptic ulcers are the oversecretion of the acid and pepsin, infection with the Helicobacter pylori, consumption of the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for the longer duration, consumption of the alcohol and the smoking for the longer duration. Okay, so what will happen? There's impairment of the normal mucosal defensive factor like the mucosal blood flow, formation of the prostaglandin A2 and the bicarbonate. That will lead to the loss of the gastric and the duodenal mucosa integrity, forming the peptic ulcer. This is the simple anatomy of the stomach. So we know that this one is the stomach, this one is the stomach, esophagus, upper. This is the esophagus, and this one is the duodenum. This one is the duodenum. I think you know well about this figure. This one is the lesser curvature. This one is the lesser curvature. So curve is there. No? This is called the lesser curvature, and this is called the greater curvature of the stomach. Okay, this is the cavity of the stomach. This one is the cavity of the stomach. It is divided into three parts. The upper part is called the fundus. The upper part is called the fundus, and this one is the body of the stomach, and this one is the lower part. This narrowing part, that is called the antrum, and this is called the pylorus. The junction between the duodenum and the stomach is called the pylorus, and the junction between this esophagus and this stomach, that is called the cardia. Okay, I think you know well about this structure. So this is the fundus, this one is the body, this one is the antrum, and this one is the pylorus, and this one is the duodenum. This is the esophagus. This is the lesser curvature, and this one is the greater curvature of the stomach. Okay, now, so physiology. First of all, before knowing about the drug used in the this peptic ulcer, we have to know about the normal physiology of the gastric acid secretion. So basically, there are the two main. Basically, there are the two main mechanisms. So generally, there are the two main mechanisms. Okay, can you listen to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so you can see this picture. So there are this one is the schematic. This is the schematic diagram. This one is the schematic diagram. This one is the schematic diagram for the mechanism of the secretion of the peptic acid or the gastric acid. We can see the mechanism of secretion of the peptic acid or the gastric acid. So this one is the you can see rectangular one. No? This one is the parietal cells. This one is the parietal cells. So basically, there are the two mechanisms. One is the gastrin induced. One is the gastrin induced secretion of the gastric acid secretion, and second is the vagal stimulation. Second is the vagal stimulation that will lead to the release of the acetylcholine. Okay, basically they are classified. They are broadly classified into there are two mechanisms. Number one mechanism is the secretion from the gastrin induced. One is the gastrin induced secretion of the gastric acid, and second is the vagal stimulation that will lead to the release of the acetylcholine. Okay, so what happened? First of all, the gastrin induced. First one is the gastrin induced. So gastrin. So what will happen? Gastrin. So what is the gastrin? They are the hormone which are released from which are secreted. Gastrin is the hormone which is secreted from the this G cells of the antrum. Antral G cells. That's called the G cells of the antrum. So we know that the antrum, the lower part of the lower narrowing part of the stomach is called the antrum. So that contains the G cells. So what is the stimulation of the formation of the gastrin? This peptide diet, the diet which are rich in the peptides, which are rich in the peptide. So because of the consumption of the peptide diet, so what will happen? That peptide diets will lead to the release of the gastrin from the G cells of the antrum. So what will that gastrin through the blood circulation will travel and will go for the gastrin receptors. These are the gastrin receptors. You can see this gastrin, they travel through the blood circulation and they reach to the gastrin receptor. These are the gastrin receptors. These gastrin receptors, they are presented in the parietal cells of the gastric mucosa. In parietal cells of the gastric mucosa, gastrin receptors, they are gastrin receptors. This gastrin, they bind to the gastrin receptors. These gastrin receptors, they are located in the, they are located over the this gastrin receptors. They are located. These gastrin receptors are located over the parietal cells of the gastric mucosa, which are basically present in the fundal part of the gastric mucosa. Fundal part of the gastric. So what will happen? So what will happen when the gastrin bind to the gastrin receptor? There's the activation of the calcium dependent pathway. There's the activation of the calcium dependent pathway. That because of the activation of the calcium dependent pathway, what will, there is the influx of the calcium within the gastric parietal cells. There is the influx of the calcium within the gastric parietal cells. Within this one is the gastric parietal cell. This rectangular part is the gastrin parietal cell. So influx of the calcium to the gastrin parietal cell will activate the protein kinase. Will activate the protein kinase. So what will happen? Because of the activation of the protein kinase, this protein kinase, they will activate the proton pump. This is called the hydrogen potassium pump. Hydrogen potassium pump. Hydrogen potassium pump is called the hydrogen potassium. They also call the proton pump. Hydrogen potassium pump. So what will, when this protein kinase activate the hydrogen potassium pump? So what will happen? There will be the release of the hydrogen ions from the gastric parietal cells to the lumen of the gastric, to the lumen of the stomach, and the influx of in turn there will be the influx of the potassium. In turn there will be the influx of the potassium. So when these hydrogen ions, they are released into the cavity of the stomach, and they binds with the this chloride which are present in the gastric mucosa, that would lead to the formation of the HCl, that is the gastric acid. HCl, hydrochloric acid, we know about that. The HCl, that is the hydrochloric acid. Okay, I will repeat it again. What will happen? One of the mechanism is the gastrin-induced mechanism. So what will happen? There is a release of the gastrin in response to the consumption of the peptide diet. Gastrin is released from the antral G cells. Now this gastrin will bind to the gastrin receptors which are present over the parietal cells of the gastric mucosa. So that will lead to the formation of the stimulation of the calcium dependent pathway. So that what will the influx of the calcium will be there. Now this calcium will activate the protein kinase, and the protein kinase will activate the hydrogen potassium pump. So what will happen? There will be the release of the hydrogen. Into the stomach of into the lumen of the stomach, and the influx of the potassium will be there. With this hydrogen ion, it will bind with the chloride which is present in the stomach cavity. It will lead to the formation of the hydrochloric acid. So this is one of the mechanism of the gastrin-induced mechanism for the secretion of the peptic acid. One of the mechanism for the secretion of the peptic. Okay, now again, okay, one of the mechanism is the gastrin-induced mechanism. Okay, again, gastrin-induced mechanism. Second, so two mechanism that comes under the gastrin-induced mechanism. One is the gastrin, it binds to the gastrin receptor, and the second is the gastrin. Gastrin, they reaches to the enterochromaffin-like cells. ECL1, they are the enterochromaffin-like cells. Enterochromaffin-like cells, they are located over the mucosa of the fundus of the stomach. They are located over the mucosa of the fundus of the stomach. So what will happen? Gastrin, they reaches to the enterochromaffin-like cells of the gastric mucosa. So what will happen? They bind. So when they bind to the enterochromaffin-like cells of the gastric mucosa, what will happen? They will release the histamine. Enterochromaffin-like cell will release the histamine. Histamine 2. Basically, the histamine 2. Histamine 1 and the histamine 2 are there. They will enterochromaffin-like cell will release the histamine. Histamine 2. Okay. Understand? Now the histamine 2, they bind to the histamine 2 receptors. Which are located over the gastric parietal cells. Okay, now histamine 2 receptors, there is G protein coupled receptor. Okay, now everything is clear. Now when we talk about the G protein coupled receptor, we know enough about the G protein coupled receptor. The histamine 2 bind to the histamine 2 receptors which are present in the gastric parietal cells, and the histamine 2 receptors, they are G protein coupled receptors. So what will happen? There will be the activation. One step is missing here. What will happen? There will be the activation of the adenylyl cyclase. That adenylyl cyclase will lead to the release of the second messenger. The second messenger is the cyclic AMP. Now this cyclic AMP, will activate the protein kinase. This protein kinase now finally will activate the hydrogen potassium pump. That is also called the proton pump. Hydrogen potassium pump. That will lead to the release of the hydrogen ion from the gastric parietal cells into the lumen of the stomach, and in turn there will be the influx of the potassium. Now this hydrogen ions it will bind with the chloride which is present in the stomach cavity or the lumen of the stomach. That will lead to the formation of the hydrochloric acid. Okay, I will repeat it again. One of the gastrin, it binds to the gastrin receptor, and one of the gastrin, it will bind to the gastrin receptor present in the enterochromaffin-like cells. So because binding of the gastrin to the enterochromaffin-like cells which are present in the gastric mucosa, basically the fundus part of the gastric mucosa, it will release the histamine 2. Okay, now histamine 2 will bind to the histamine 2 receptors, which are the G protein coupled receptors. So there will be the formation of, there will be the activation of adenylyl cyclase. Adenylyl cyclase will lead to the formation of the second messenger. The second messenger is cyclic AMP, and that will lead to the formation of the protein kinase. Now protein kinase will activate the hydrogen potassium pump. The hydrogen potassium pump will be activated. So what will happen? Influx of the efflux of the hydrogen ions from the gastric parietal cells into the mucosa, into the this lumen of the stomach. So this hydrogen ions it will bind to the chloride again. So there are the two mechanisms for the secretion of the gastric acid. Number one is the gastrin-induced release of the peptide, this gastric acid, and the second is the vagal stimulation. That will lead to the release of the acetylcholine. Okay, in gastrin-induced, there are the two pathways. Number one is the gastrin directly bind to the gastrin receptors which are located on the parietal cells of the gastric mucosa. So calcium release, there's activation of the calcium dependent pathway, influx of the calcium. The calcium will lead to the activation of the protein kinase. So there's the activation of the proton pump. The proton pump is the hydrogen and potassium pump. So there will be the release of the hydrogen ions into the lumen of the stomach. That will lead to the formation of the gastric acid. And the second is the gastrin. It will bind. It will travel to the enterochromaffin-like cells which are located in the gastric mucosa. This enterochromaffin-like cell will release the histamine. Okay, histamine. So histamine will bind to the histamine 2. Actually, that is the histamine 2. Now, histamine, it will bind to the histamine 2 receptors. This histamine 2 receptors, there is a G protein coupled receptor. So what will happen? This G protein coupled receptor will activate the adenylyl cyclase. That will further produce the formation of the second messenger, that is the cyclic AMP. Now, the cyclic AMP will activate the protein kinase. Now, protein kinase will activate the hydrogen potassium pump. Because of that, there is a release of the hydrogen ions into the lumen of the stomach. So that will lead to the formation of the hydrochloric acid. Okay. Now, second mechanism is the stimulation of the vagal center. So what do you like? This is a normal physiology. This one is the normal physiology for the secretion of the gastric acid. So stimulation of the acetylcholine. Okay. So there are the stimulation of the acetylcholine. Okay. So what will happen in the acetylcholine? So we know the activation of the vagal center. When this activation of the vagal center, what will happen? There is a release of the acetylcholine. From the acetylcholine as a neurotransmitter. Now so we know about the enteric nervous system. So we know about the autonomic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system, they are divided into the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and the enteric nervous system. What happened in the enteric nervous system? Acetylcholine is released from the vagal center. That acetylcholine, it will bind to the acetylcholine receptor, muscarinic receptors. Basically the muscarinic 3 receptors. These muscarinic 3 receptors, they are located over the gastric parietal cells. Now, when the acetylcholine bind to the muscarinic 3 receptors present in the gastric parietal cells. Now, other mechanism is same, calcium dependent pathway. That is the release of the calcium, influx of the calcium inside the parietal cells. That will lead to the activation of the protein kinase. Now, this protein kinase will further activate the hydrogen potassium pump. It is located in the canalicular membrane of the gastric parietal cells. This is called the canalicular membrane of the gastric parietal cells. So that will lead to the hydrogen potassium pump, and the activation of the hydrogen potassium pump. So that will lead to the efflux of the hydrogen ions into the lumen of the stomach. That will lead to the formation of the hydrochloric acid. Everything is same. Only the thing is there. Vagal stimulation will be there. Now this vagal stimulation will release the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Acetylcholine will activate the muscarinic receptor and the other calcium dependent pathway. Okay, so that is the one, and the other is also same. Acetylcholine. What happened? Acetylcholine will reach to the enterochromaffin like cells. Now it will activate the muscarinic receptors which are present in the enterochromaffin like cells. So because of the activation of the enterochromaffin like cell muscarinic receptor, it will release the histamine. It will release the histamine 2. Histamine 2. Okay. So histamine 2 will bind to the histamine 2 receptors which are present in the gastric parietal cells. They are the G protein couple receptor. So there will be the activation of the adenylyl cyclase. So adenylyl cyclase will produce the formation of cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP will activate the protein kinase, and protein kinase will finally activate the hydrogen potassium pump. There is a release of the hydrogen ions into the stomach. So that will form the formation of the hydrochloric acid. This is the mechanism for the peptic acid. So this is the mechanism. This is the mechanism for the peptic acid secretion. This is the mechanism for the peptic acid secretion. So there are the two pathways: gastrin-induced release of the gastric acid secretion. Okay, and the second is the vagal stimulation that will release the acetylcholine of the enteric nervous system. Okay, this is the mechanism of the acid peptic secretion. Normal physiology of the active. Now the drugs which are used for the treatment of the peptic ulcer, the mechanism of action depends upon the inhibition of this pathway, any point in this pathway. Okay, so we can say like one drug is there that is called the proton pump inhibitor. Like omeprazole. I think this is the common drug we know about, that omeprazole and the pantoprazole. That is called the proton pump inhibitor. So what is the mechanism? General mechanism. The proton pump inhibitor inhibits the hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. So there will be no release of the hydrogen ions into the stomach cavity. So there is the inhibition of the secretion of the hydrochloric acid. Okay, like one other drug, we will discuss about that drug in detail in the coming days. Okay, other is the antihistaminic, histamine 2 receptor antagonist, histamine like ranitidine. You know about the ranitidine? Ranitidine is the commonly used drug. We know about that. So ranitidine, Acilog. Have you heard about the Acilog? Acilog is the ranitidine. Okay, Acilog is the ranitidine. So what is the mechanism? They are the histamine 2 receptor antagonist. They are the histamine 2 receptor antagonist. So what will happen? Because of histamine 2 receptor antagonist, there will be no secretion of there is no activation of this pathway. So there will be no secretion of the hydrochloric acid. So we will discuss about those drugs in detail. Okay, so today's lecture was basically it was dependent on the introduction of the peptic ulcer, their pathogenesis in detail, and the important is the mechanism of the secretion of the peptic. Okay, this one is the endoscopic appearance of the gastric ulcer. Okay, you can see no, this four pictures are there. No, so 4 pictures are there. So this blue color, this is the stone. These are the mucosa. This one is the mucosa. You know the endoscopic appearance. Okay, endoscopic appearance. Okay, so pink colored mucosa is the normal mucosa. Pink colored mucosa is the normal mucosa. And you can see this red one, no, red one, or the pink, this dark red one, and this white color. That is the peptic ulcer. That is the inflamed one, no, inflamed one, and the right. This is the peptic ulcer. Similarly, you can see here. This pink color is the normal mucosa, and this one, this red color and this white color, they are the ulcer. They are the peptic ulcer, which are located in the gastric mucosa. Similarly, here we can see peptic ulcer. This one is the peptic ulcer. Okay, this is only the classification we will discuss about that. Okay, or we can say this classification of the antacid, magnesium hydroxide, aluminum hydroxide. Okay, we will discuss about it in the coming class.